represents or connects to the Black community, or either one of them. You know, it's no disrespect to them. They have their story, right? They have their right to tell it. They have their perspective. I actually, ironically, Jade, you feel free to comment on this. I actually respect the fact that Candace is doing the damn thing, doing what she wants to do. I think that Candace Owens actually creates a better deal for Black people who are hardcore Democrats. You know, just for the good cop, bad cop theory. You know, sometimes you need the bad cop to make to help the good cop get the job done, right? So when Candace is pointing out the problems with the Democratic Party and pushing a campaign to get Black folks to leave the Democratic Party, if the Democrats were smart, they would be responsive to that. They would come back and say, no, that's not true. Here's some things we're going to do to really earn your vote. And it almost seems like they're just kind of stuck on stupid or stuck on racist because they're so scared of offending their white base. The white folks that they've got on the other side of the fence, that they're letting Black people kind of just, you know, they're almost using like this psychological magic and trickery. Like we want to play mind games with Black people to get their vote, as opposed to respecting us as human beings and really truly addressing the issues that Black people have brought to the table. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I want to say that I mean, I have a lot of criticism for Candace Owens. I mean, I do appreciate anyone who steps into like the public sphere and challenges any and all of us to think or to consider other ideas. So yeah, I'll put that out there. What I will say about the Democratic Party is that they've gotten into a terrible habit of like hypnotizing the Black base as if like they aren't also guilty of perpetrating racism, right? So there's different forms of racism, right? You have segregationist racism, which I mean, a lot of like xenophobic, like Trump supporters or you know, hardcore conservatives could fall under that bracket. But then you also have assimilationist racism and integrationist racism, and the latter two actually is indicative or demonstrative of what the Democratic Party is doing. It's kind of like saying, hey, we're the white savior. We are saying, we're setting the ground rules and you're going to do things our way. And we're going to be inclusive and we're going to celebrate diversity. But at the end of the day, like we are on code, we are on team white supremacy. And they do so in a very, very subtle way, especially when it comes to national politics, as opposed to a lot of like conservatives who are just kind of like, nope, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to make myself feel uncomfortable about making you feel better. This is what we are about over here. And it's more so like in your face. And so, unfortunately, a lot of our people, Black voters, get tricked into voting for, get tricked into believing that Democrats cannot also be racist or guilty of perpetuating racism. So yeah, I do appreciate Candace Owens for calling that out. And on the other hand, too, I mean, I do want to shout out Cardi B for at least using her platform to start to think more politically and to start to see herself as more of an influencer and wanting to step up and take responsibility in that way. I mean, I wouldn't personally align myself with Bernie Sanders, but again, I don't have to necessarily agree with everyone's modalities, ways of doing things or ideologies, but I do respect her for stepping up in that way as well.
Yeah, well, you know, when you think about Cardi, and I agree with you 100%. I remember being impressed with the fact that Cardi, you know, when she went on stage and she supported Colin Kaepernick back in the day, I think it was at the BET Awards. So I don't think, I'm not a believer in just beating up Cardi no matter what. I think that Cardi can be challenged, but beating her up and saying that she's worthless, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't see things in black and white. Nobody. I don't see her in black and white. I don't see Obama in black and white. I don't see Trump in black and white. I don't see none of it in black and white because I'm too smart for that. You're too smart for that. We're too smart for that. The people in this space, in this platform, are too smart for that. You know, but what I will say is that I think with Cardi, what's interesting is that I would say that Bernie, for, you know, if his goal is to try to get elected by liberals, you know, that's what he's trying to appeal to. He's trying to ignite his liberal base. He's not going to get a lot of moderates. He's not going to get a lot of, you know, a lot of black folks are not liberal. You know, a lot of black folks are like, you know what, we have family values that aren't in alignment with everything that comes out of a liberal's mouth. Some of that stuff y'all saying is sounding crazy to us. Tell me yes or no if you think some of that liberal. I think I remember even seeing where Target or one of the big department stores was going to stop having a boys and a girls section for clothes, and they were going to have everything be gender neutral. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't know nothing about that shit. Like, that's stupid to me, right? So I think that, you know, to the extent that Cardi is not just a person that appeals to black people, she has fans all around the world of all different ethnic backgrounds. They tend to be liberal, right? They tend to see Cardi maybe as a champion for the rights of sex workers, things like that. Which is fine, right? But they can have that conversation because liberals, that's kind of their MO, right? We want, you know, we want you know, we want to do certain things when it comes to sex and gender. We want you know, to legalize, you know, drugs and prostitution. We want, you know, whatever, right? And some of that's okay, some of it's not. It's okay for people to feel how they feel. But I think that appealing to Cardi, it ain't a black thing. And what I'm really hoping is that there's nobody in Bernie Sanders' camp who has led him to really believe that talking to Cardi B is the same as talking to black people. You know, the B in Cardi B does not stand for black. She's not Cardi Black. Maybe she's Cardi Bill Cosby. Maybe the B stands for Bill Cosby, but it don't stand for black. You know, so he's going to get a base there. But if you're really talking about trying to talk to black people, that's when you got to do the stuff that a liberal won't do. Especially not a liberal person from the Jewish community, which means talking to somebody like a Farrakhan. Right? You know, millions of black people support and respect people like Farrakhan. And the fact that you're going to try to demonize some of the leaders that we respect the most, who are really out here doing the damn thing, really doing the work for the community, putting us, you know, really getting on the front lines for us, that is going to alienate a lot of black people. And also, when you consider the fact that the liberals can speak all day about a lot of liberal issues, or speak a lot on issues that relate to maybe immigrants, but have very little conversation about things like, for example, the fact that 45% of all black males in Chicago between the ages of 20 and 24 don't have a job and are not in school. That's a problem, right? When you could talk about little children being locked up, you know, the kids from El Salvador, you know, being locked up with their parents in detention centers, you know, which is what happens when you break into a country, by the way. If I go break into China, they're not going to just say, well, come on in. They're going to lock my ass up, right? No disrespect. I'm not dissing anybody, but that's what happens, right? But at the same time, it's like, if you're going to talk about somebody else being away from their parents for a couple of weeks in a detention center, I don't see why you're not also talking about all the tens of thousands of black people right now who are incarcerated under nonviolent federal crimes that should be released. I'm okay if you release the people in the detention centers, please go ahead, but release us first. Give us free. You know, like seriously, like give us free first. And then, you know what, if you want to go, I'll vote for you. You know, in fact, Bernie Sanders, right now, I'm gonna stop talking, I'm gonna let you talk. Bernie Sanders, if you're watching, if you go and you free 50,000 non-violent black people who violated federal law, you know, and you can even go to the ones who've been in prison for say 5 to 10 years or longer, I will vote for you. I will endorse you, and I will go out. I will personally speak on behalf of getting rid of all of the detention centers. But if you can't talk about black people first, then I can't talk about you. Go ahead, Jade.
Better yet, Bernie, if you're listening, until you apologize for the disgusting lie and for you feigning ignorance as if you don't know what reparations is, you know, for black people, when it's good enough for your people and other groups of people, then I would never support you, and I will never advocate for any other black person to support you. I just had to throw that out there in case Bernie is listening. What makes both of these parties racist is the policies that they support, the policies that they push, which are anti-black policies. There are very, very few policies out there. I'm not really hearing much, especially coming out of these candidates lately, as of late, that will that you know won't in some way affect black folks. So I wanted to put that out there in terms of like both parties being racist. But to go back to your point, I think most black voters don't, like, we vote religiously and we vote by default for the Democratic Party because we feel like there's an expectation to, and because like Democrats can really make you feel good, right? Democrats can make you feel wanted and respected, and like they respect diversity, and they're not going to call me the N-word, and they're not telling us to go back to where we came from, et cetera, et cetera. So that is like very, very appealing on an emotional and a psychological level when you're talking about, you know, our demographic, which has been systemically and historically oppressed. And I think that's one of the things that makes the Democratic Party so appealing. But unfortunately, a lot of Black voters don't even know where they stand on the issues. I'm constantly like evaluating and reevaluating where I stand on issues, especially as like the national conversations change, especially as new legislation is proposed and passed, etc. For example, I just took 2 political polls. One was on the Pew Research Center site. It was like a political interest scale. So I got to see where I fell there. And then I took another poll, which identified me as a centrist, right? Like in the middle, like not necessarily not conservative, definitely not liberal. So I guess, you know, moderate maybe, but like very, very, very center. But interestingly, on the Pew Research poll that I took, and it provided an analysis, I was identified as a disaffected Democrat, which I thought to be really, really funny. So they asked you a bunch of questions about, you know, about a bunch of different issues. And from there, I'm able to like kind of see what resonates for me, what doesn't resonate for me. But I'm always looking critically at both ends of the spectrum, at both political parties and like the people in the middle to say, hey, which policies are deal breakers for me? Like what's really important for me? Well, what are the trade-offs, et cetera, et cetera? And I need us as a group to be more informed voters. And even for those of us who can't vote, we can still be civically engaged and active, you know, civically, especially within our neighborhoods and communities, etc. But we need to know, we need to define where we stand on the issues, and we need to empower ourselves to choose as opposed to allowing other groups that are both team white supremacy, that are anti-Black, that support anti-Black policies to determine that for us.
Well, you know what I'm going to show you a picture, Jade, and check this out. You mentioned the Democratic Party. You said that one of their attributes is they believe in diversity, right? So now, mind you, Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are not in this particular debate. But
Yeah.
when you look at this picture, do you see diversity in this picture? What diversity can we really say that we see?
Well, one may argue that there is gender diversity in the picture, right? So, you know,
Yeah.
like how find it like women. Oh, women are in the house. Oh, that's diversity. Someone may say an LGBT. I'm not sure. Is Buttigieg on here? You know, sexual preference and lifestyle equates diversity, right? People coming from various socioeconomic backgrounds, although they're still white, that constitutes as diversity, right? And the Democratic Party knows how to use that and maneuver that to draw people in. But what I will say is that the Black voting bloc is the most dedicated voting bloc to the Democratic Party, which is why they're so desperate to keep us active and politically engaged, because women, white women, you know, other so-called minority groups or ethnic groups, they tend to vote for the party or the candidate that's going to push their policies and their interests. Black folk have historically, and I know Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this extensively at the All Black National Convention last year. I got to have a private conversation with him. You know, he even said that Black folks, we're the only group that we consistently vote for the same candidate, the same party over and over again without anything else in return. Mm-hmm. We don't as like, you know, like a business transaction. It's just kind of like tithing or, you know, giving something away. But yeah, there isn't a lot of racial diversity shown in that photo. Now, there will be some racial diversity shown in the photo from tonight for tonight's Democratic debate. But again, you have to take into consideration how diversity is being defined in America today. And it does not necessarily mean Black or ethnic diversity.
Yeah, well, everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Miss Jade Arrindell from FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Actually, Jade goes live on Fly Nubian Queen TV. What is it? Is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right?
Yep, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.